What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading, back at it again with another crypto market update. Today we've got Cardano, Chainlink, and Algorand. I'm sure you're all wondering what these three cryptos are up to. Are they going to crash lower? Are they about to pump? If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of these cryptos. Your analysis could be different, and honestly, guys, if it is, that's awesome. As I love to say, the more difference of opinion we have, the better traders, the better investors we're all going to become. So with that being said, guys, let's jump straight into Cardano. And honestly, guys, things are looking really interesting in Cardano's ecosystem at the moment, at least in my opinion. I think we're seeing a lot of things come together for Cardano. So just let me kind of break things down here one step at a time. So if you've been keeping up with my Cardano updates, you'll know that the Cardano Foundation has started basically doing these featured project spotlights every single Friday, which I don't think is a coincidence. I do think that this is purposely intended to kind of drive more attention towards Cardano's actual ecosystem rather than just Cardano the asset, if that makes any sense. And of course, so it's interesting. Okay, so on the one hand, you have the Cardano Foundation, for lack of a better term. They're basically kind of like marketing Cardano's ecosystem, like focusing on specific projects. Okay, so that's one aspect of it, right? That's just one aspect. The other aspect, of course, is that we're seeing kind of integrations here in the background with Filecoin, basically integrating with Cardano to help with Cardano dApp decentralization. So that kind of shows us that, so on the front end, they're doing marketing, on the back end, they're kind of doing development, right? So then what's kind of like the missing piece there? Obviously, it's liquidity. And this actually ties into something that I had mentioned, I think, last week, guys, is that basically Cardano is working on a new stablecoin. It's like a classic centralized stablecoin. It's branded under Anzens, which I believe is a part of Emergo, which is one of the companies that's working on Cardano. Long story short, that USDA, this stablecoin that's coming up, I mean, it technically launched, but it's not available to regular users yet. But this stablecoin is kind of like Cardano's flagship stablecoin. And of course, as you guys know, stablecoins are a key part in liquidity, in DeFi, in crypto ecosystems. The reason why Ethereum is so big, the reason why Solana is so big, a big part of that is due to the stablecoin volume, the stablecoin transactions, and all the stuff that enables. And Cardano looks like it's about to get the same thing here. So this is kind of like the liquidity component. So again, Cardano Foundation marketing on the front end, Cardano, the developers actually working on stuff on the back end, integrations with Filecoin and such. And then you have this liquidity that's coming potentially through USDA. And this is where things get really interesting, guys. One of the things that I like to look at when it comes to these larger chains, or rather, one thing that really fascinates me about large cryptos like XRP and ADA, is that the market cap of these cryptos is so huge, but the total value locked on their chains is comparatively small. And this is especially true when it comes to the value of the cryptos in these ecosystems, right? Like the value of altcoins in Cardano's ecosystem is so small relative to ADA's total market cap. And this is a gap that is just waiting to be closed. And in practical terms, I see that as meaning that a lot of crypto projects in Cardano's ecosystem are going to do very well. And of course, the question is how, where is that going to start? Why are people going to start buying these Cardano projects? And the answer, honestly, guys, is the same as what we see on Ethereum, on Solana, is that Ethereum and Solana whales, they use their ETH and SOL as collateral in DeFi, and then they borrow stablecoins against that. Again, this is something that's currently not really possible on Cardano in size. Of course, there are stablecoins there that can be borrowed, but to do this in size requires something like this USDA to become available to the general public, which is going to happen here apparently in the coming weeks. And when you combine that with the fact, guys, that some of the largest basically DeFi protocols here on Cardano, they're all lending protocols. And if you actually go and look at them, you see, yeah, there's a little bit like stablecoin borrowing, lots of ADA deposits, but just imagine how much value it's going to unlock when ADA starts being used as collateral in these DeFi protocols. And then this Anzens USDA stablecoin launches and actually makes it possible for ADA whales to borrow against their ADA using this USDA, and then they basically will use that stablecoin to invest in other altcoins in Cardano's ecosystem. And this is what is going to cause a huge boom in altcoins, the same way that it has on Ethereum, the same way that it has on Solana. And I do think the same thing is going to happen with XRP, but it's probably going to have to wait until XRP launches this EVM sidechain. But of course, we're talking about Cardano here, not XRP, which of course brings me to the price chart here, guys. Nothing has really changed since we last covered Cardano. It's been kind of struggling, to hold this $1 support. It's been kind of hovering around 94, 95 cents. case. Not that surprising given that the market had a pretty nasty washout here. You can see if basically we're on the daily chart here, guys, in case it wasn't obvious enough. And when you see these long wicks at the bottom here, like you see a long wick here, another long wick there, a long wick there, what that tells you is that a lot of people were basically buying that dip. Like the cause of the initial crash is usually just like liquidations, people who were going long on ADA, but then they got wrecked. And then you can see the reason why there's a wick there is because a bunch of people stepped in and they bought that dip a lot, especially when ADA fell below 90 cents. So maybe you could make the case that the support level is closer to 90 cents. But in any case, I think it's around this 95 cent, $1, within that 10-cent range roughly. But anyways, guys, as you guys know, the way that I draw these charts is I basically look at the starting point of this most recent move, and then I look at where it had struggled getting up, or rather where it struggled to get above, and then I take the difference between those two levels, and that's how we get the target. So of course, the starting point here is quite clearly around 75 cents, resistance quite obviously somewhere around $1.25. The difference between those two levels is 50 cents, and that would give us an ADA target of $1.75. And again, this is something that I've been saying has been coming, that should come in the next couple of weeks, and I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now, so I will acknowledge that. Things tend to take a little bit longer than expected sometimes in crypto, but in the grand scheme of things, like relative to other asset classes, crypto tends to move quite quickly. So I would recommend to you guys just to be patient, especially if you're someone who's holding ADA. If you're someone who's planning on trading ADA, you need to wait until we get above this resistance level. Of course, that means you have to, give up some of the gains, but at the same time, once it does break this resistance, you can feel pretty confident that it will hit that target. Right now, it's still kind of in no man's land, chopping between these two levels, and that's a really tricky environment to trade unless you're really an expert. I'm not. I consider myself to be a pretty decent trader, but I am by no means an expert. As you guys can see, I keep things very simple. This is the videos you find here from me on Coin Bureau Trading is really more for like entry level beginner stuff like that. And of course, it does come in handy. This stuff still is relevant if you're like a really advanced trader, but it's a very simplified, very basic, I guess you could say, technical analysis, and it does tend to be accurate, as you can see here. Just assuming all the levels are drawn correctly, of course. Anyways, guys, you might have noticed we were using Binance there. The Coin Bureau Deals page has a 20% trading fee discount and up to $600 in bonuses. It doesn't cost you a thing to take advantage of those discounts and bonuses. So I do suggest checking it out, especially because you get a trading fee discount, which helps a lot, even if you're just trading with a small amount frequently. If you're trading frequently, those trading fee discounts help. The exchange gets a new user and we get a cut of your trading fees, which is how the Coin Bureau makes its money. As I'm going to be saying, a lot of people accuse us of being like Ethereum or Cardano shills or Sui shills or whatever. But that's just not true. Like we don't care what crypto you like, so long as you're going to be buying it, selling it, trading it, we can help out with that. And basically when you're buying your favorite crypto, you're winning and we're winning if you're using our discount code, which again doesn't cost you anything, and you can find the links there in the description. Before I go on though, now that I mentioned Sui, one thing I will note is you might be wondering, okay, like what would cause ADA to go up to this $1.75 target? Well, besides the possibility, like knock on wood, that the Fed will be a little bit dovish tomorrow, which is what I'm hoping. If not, then maybe ADA could fall back down to the starting point, which would really suck. But if the Fed is dovish tomorrow, then I would expect a rally up to this resistance level. But I think I think the thing that's going to take ADA to this target could be, and I'm just going to specify that this is a possibility. I'm not saying this will happen. The reason why I bring this up in the context of Sui is because the main reason why Sui has been pumping so much is because it looks like Sui whales were using Sui as collateral to buy more Sui. And it's possible that we could see a similar dynamic here where some ADA whales, they use ADA as collateral, they borrow the stable coin, and then they buy, to make sure that the borrowed amount stays stable essentially. And then they use that borrowed stable coin to buy ADA to drive ADA's price even higher. That's a dynamic we could also see here for ADA. Again, it's something that a lot of cryptos do. It's something that a lot of whales do. It's not unique to Sui, and if it happens to Cardano, it's definitely not going to be unique, and I would not be surprised in the slightest. Anyways, guys, that brings me here to Chainlink, which is where things get truly interesting, and it actually ties in a little bit to Algorand. So if you watched yesterday's video where I was kind of breaking down why I'm bullish on the markets, and basically the TLDR there is that the reason why altcoins have been struggling is because Ethereum has been struggling, and I think Ethereum is going to be rallying soon because of this real world asset narrative, which is really being pushed by BlackRock and these asset managers. And of course, Chainlink is basically one critical piece of infrastructure that's going to play like a very key role there in the tokenization of real world assets, because it's basically going to provide provide the data feeds so that the price of those real world assets remains accurate, essentially. So Chainlink is going to play a very big role there. So obviously, it's no surprise that they're kind of talking about real world assets here over the last couple of days. I do think that's the catalyst that's going to take Chainlink higher, especially when you consider that Link is on the Ethereum blockchain, and whatever catalyst takes Ethereum higher will take Ethereum altcoins higher as well, which again includes Chainlink. That brings me here to the Link chart. As you guys can see, same thing, super simple. Doing our simple target math, starting point of around $20, resistance quite clearly somewhere around $27. We have a support level of $22, which was just, Link wick down to that yesterday. And again, you can see with this wick, this long wick tells you that people were buying the dip, that there was liquidations, and then people came in and they bought that while they could. And of course, we do need to wait for Link to get above this resistance level before it goes for this $34 target. And the way that we arrive there, of course, we take the difference between these two levels, which is $7. We add that difference, and that gives us a target of $34, which would not be too shabby at all. But again, just do keep in mind that Link needs to get above. And I will caution again that if the Fed is hawkish tomorrow, maybe we'll see Link fall down to the support, possibly even down to the starting point. But I actually think that the Fed is probably going to come out a little bit dovish. Specifically, I think there'll be some tweaks around the long term, or rather, how do I explain this? Basically, the U.S. The Federal Reserve holds a lot of U.S. government debt, and they've been slowly, essentially allowing this debt to roll off, or selling this debt, which has been putting pressure on interest rates. If they announce that they're going to be reducing that or even stopping it, then this would be enough, I think, to take it would take interest rates lower, and it would take altcoins higher. So that's the specific call, I guess, that I have for tomorrow's Fed meeting, for whatever that's worth. And I'll probably be repeating it again in tomorrow's video. Going to keep heading higher here in the coming weeks with the RWA narrative. This is not a cycle top. Same thing with Cardano. That's not a cycle top. This is just a top, or potentially a local top over the next couple of weeks here. I do think that by early February, we should see most of these cryptos hitting these targets. And if not, then I'll be a little bit surprised and potentially concerned. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, if we get to it, rather. Anyways, so this ties again into Algorand. So the interesting thing with Algorand is that so I was going through the feed, and I know that there's some people in the Coin Bureau Club actually who are letting me know that Algorand is also working on stablecoin payments, which is awesome. That could be another thing that that gets Algorand in the spotlight. But the thing that really caught my eye is that yesterday the Algorand Foundation posted that said that they're now rightly listed under the RWA category on CoinMarketCap, which is a little bit, which is, I mean, not surprising, but it's really interesting. And it kind of tells me, obviously, that Algorand is trying to angle itself more towards real world assets. And as I was just saying, I do think that this is a narrative that's going to be getting big here in the coming weeks. So it is really fascinating to me that that basically the Algorand is saying, yeah, we're part of that group, let us on the ride, with Ethereum, with these RWAs. So that's going to be really interesting, I think. And this could be a catalyst. Of course, Algorand, their staking rewards, I think, went live just after my video last week or a couple days later. It didn't have much of an effect on the price, which is unfortunate. But again, I do think that this catalyst here with RWAs, that's probably going to be the next narrative here that takes ADA higher. With that being said, we can take a look at the actual chart. Starting point of around 32 cents, resistance quite clearly somewhere around 52 cents. The difference between those two levels is 20 cents. And of course, when we take the difference and we add it to the resistance, we get a target of 72 cents, which again, not too shabby. You'd be looking at almost a 2x from Algo's current price. Again, it's been, similarly to ADA, it's been kind of struggling around this 40-cent support. It's been slightly below that. You can see it even wicked down here. Again, a lot of people bought that dip as it approached this 32-cent target. Not surprising at all. We've seen it here in the past before. So I do think Algo's still looking pretty strong, I would say. And especially when we zoom out here, you can see the price chart looks pretty good. This is kind of had a nice rally. Now it's consolidating, and then it's going to have another move higher. And again, I do think that's going to come here in the next couple of weeks. And again, I do acknowledge that I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now, but you have to be patient with crypto, guys, and I know a couple of extra weeks can be frustrating, but when you compare it to the gains that you're going to see in things like stocks where you're waiting years and years and years to get a move like this, I'll take it, and I think that you should as well. Not financial advice or not life advice, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, guys, Algo's looking good. Everything is intact here, and I do think it's going to hit this 72-cent target in the coming weeks. And of course, that brings me to the Coin Bureau Club, which is where we do deep dives into promising small cap altcoins in Cardano's ecosystem, Algorand's ecosystem. We did one, basically a poll. We conducted basically an altcoin review poll of crypto projects in XRP's ecosystem. And of course, the crypto project that wins that poll is the one that we review every single week. The way that we select those projects is based on a combination combination of the cryptos that we find in our research and the suggestions that are given to us by our members, especially the ones, the CBC detectives, shout out to them. And of course, the one which wins the poll is the one we review. We have a research feed where I'm sharing the types of insights, like yesterday, my kind of lengthy video explaining why I was bullish on the market. I did a lot of research feed posts about that yesterday. We have a portfolio page where you can see the cryptos we hold, as well as the cryptos we're considering buying. Full disclosure, I actually bought Helium yesterday. I bought that dip. I think I'm already up like 10% or something like that, so not too shabby. And moving now to the deals page, of course, is where we have huge discounts on or I guess on crypto analytics platforms and stuff like that. And of course, we have a members Discord where I'm sharing these insights and also doing technical analysis on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins every single day. The other thing as well is I do take requests from time to time, and you can ask us questions and stuff like that. But of course, we tend to get quite busy, so don't take it personally if we're not replying. It's not something that we really guarantee, but it's something we do our best to kind of stay on top of, so to speak. So this brings me to today's alpha. This is actually something that I posted also in the well, not in the research feed, but we have basically like a crypto news channel for like updates for stuff that we find interesting. And the one news that I find really interesting here is that Microsoft is in talks to buy TikTok. Why is this interesting? Well, Aptos has really, and this is where things, we're really going to get, put our tinfoil hats on here and go down a rabbit hole. Some of you might remember that Sui originally had a partnership with, I think, with TikTok's parent company. I think it was with ByteDance or one of these companies. So Sui was working closely with them, and the assumption was that Sui would potentially end up integrating with TikTok someday. Okay, that was like the original kind of like narrative. But the thing is, guys, this is really interesting. So of course, like I know a lot of people aren't fans of Aptos, and like of course the price hasn't been doing really well and all this stuff. The one advantage objectively that Aptos has over other crypto projects, whether it's Sui or whatever else, is that they do seem to have pretty significant partnerships with Web2, with large Web2 companies, and they're really eager to kind of work with these like established big tech companies. This is like the one I would say differentiating factor. Of course, a lot of cryptos like to kind of how would I say, like they want to be like they want to create their own infrastructure. They don't really want to be close with this Web2, right? They want to get away from Web2, but Aptos seems to be keen on kind of like bridging that gap and working very closely with these companies. I think they have like 2 or 3 partnerships with Microsoft, ranging from like AI to like infrastructure to like other stuff like that. So I do find it very fascinating that, with Microsoft now potentially going to buy TikTok, and Aptos could potentially be used there in some capacity, especially when it comes to things like emoji coins, which, members of the Coin Bureau Club will know. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole here. But if you guys are familiar with this like NPC streaming thing on TikTok where people will like buy emojis and send emojis, Aptos seems to have a similar thing that's that could potentially be used in that context. And again, like, I'm being super speculative here, really dusting off that tinfoil hat for this one. But in all seriousness, guys, I do think that that this is something to watch. Don't how would I say, don't forget about the fact that, the changes in regulations they're not just going to result in structural changes to the crypto market, but they're going to open up the door to all these traditional companies to work with crypto, which is something that they really haven't been able to do so far, especially, due to fears of like conflict of interest, for example, between like Facebook and Sui, or Facebook and Aptos. That's something that that the regulators would probably not allow in the past, given the shared history. Sui and Aptos used to be Libra, which was originally created by Facebook, so that would be seen as a very clear conflict of interest. But with these new regulators, that's stuff that could be allowed here. So don't underestimate the possibility that some of these, that some of these large crypto projects will ink a very, very significant partnerships which were just not thought to be possible in prior years. So that's kind of like my hot take for today. Anyways, guys, if you did make it this far, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.